What I imagine will happen is that the bill will come over from the House with the ObamaCare funding stripped out of it, and the senators will, in all likelihood, after there'll be delaying tactics, Ted Cruz and others may try to stall, try to force the Senate to use 60 votes to do anything on this bill. But in order to do that, they'll have to be filibustering the very bill that they'd like to see passed, which is a very peculiar position to be in. But let's assume, and I think it's a fair assumption, that eventually the Senate will pass a bill with Obamacare funding restored and send it back to the House. That is when the Speaker and his team over there will face a choice. If they bring the bill up on the House floor in that condition, with Obamacare funding restored, by a combination of some Republicans and most Democrats, they can probably pass it. It would then pass the Senate and go to the President. But there would be hell to pay among some factions within the Republican Party that this would amount to a betrayal, which is what Ted Cruz and his House allies are counting on. My guess is this effort will fail, and one way Boehner may be able to help to do what he wants to do here, which is avoid a shutdown. Republicans get blamed for shutdowns in Washington, always have, is that he can say we'll fight later on the debt limit. So we're in, I think, Martha, for many weeks of melodrama on this issue.
Yeah, you know, when you listen to Joe Manchin on the Sunday shows, basically saying, why can't we break this down into pieces? And Ted Cruz suggested that as well. Why not put something forth that, you know, funds the military, for example, and then work your way through the budget?
You could do that, but time is short and the government's low on funds. Now, one thing that could happen would be you'd pass some kind of a temporary measure to keep everything going, basically status quo, to give the two bodies a little more time. But to go now and pass each of these appropriations bills, that's the way it's supposed to be done, but it hasn't been done that way very often for many years. And you'd have to do this step by step. It would be very time consuming. It's not clear that would play out. This is a stratagem that has just been thought of for this situation by members who I think are kind of making things up as they go along.
Here we go again, right?
Yeah, here we go again.
I mean, you always have to do these things in such a scramble at the end, and you're right, it would have taken work months ago to try to lay the foundation for this kind of process here, and you got to ask yourself why that never seems to happen anymore. Politically, Brit, when you go forward, if it works out the way you're saying, that they will negotiate, they will pass something, and the House Republicans and the Ted Cruzes of the Senate will be very disappointed. Politically, what happens later?
Well, what happens next, of course, Martha, is we have another round of this with the debt ceiling being in play.
Right.
The President says he won't negotiate over that, and they'll try again on that. And it remains to be seen what kind of a strategy they will have, how they will try to frame the issue. The problem for Republicans in these fights where government shutdown or running out of money of one kind or another is in play is Republicans have the reputation, not undeserved, of being the party less favorable toward government than the Democrats. The Democrats are known as the party of government. So when people think that somebody's shutting the government down, they don't automatically suspect the Democrats. They suspect the Republicans. And in time after time in these fights over the years, when there's been a shutdown in prospect or an actual partial shutdown, which has happened a couple of times, Republicans have gotten all the blame. And people really, even people who are terribly disappointed in the performance of government, do not want to see it shut down. The government does many things. Businesses and individuals all across the country interact with government every day. What they want is a better functioning government at less expense. What they don't want is the government services to stop, or the government agencies to stop. I mean, think of poultry and meat inspections and air traffic controllers and all these things on which the functioning of our country depends day by day. This is what's in play here, and it is why shutdown is a very dangerous game to play.
We see in the polls people are